Hello everybody, Matt George here, just leaving the KHTK studios, just wrapped up another episode of The Drive. We're on from 6 to 9 a.m. every weekday morning. This is actually our first show where we had our entire crew back together since, the midway point of December, and our first inaugural show of 2017. We talked about a lot of good stuff, and I thought, why not make these drives home, these commutes home, a little more productive than I usually do. So we're gonna start doing little videos like these from time to time, just talking the latest in sports or anything that you guys may want to talk about or discuss. One of the things I talked about in the Cowbell Kingdom podcast that I host last night, you can watch it on cowbellkingdom.com or check out my Twitter or any social media source that is connected to me or Cowbell Kingdom, and you'll find the You'll find the podcast pretty easily. But one of the things I talked about at the end, which is something I really wanted to get into, but unfortunately we ran out of time, so I posed the question for our next podcast, and I'm also going to write a story on it to get more in detail, but I thought I'd just spew some thoughts and get some of my thoughts and my comments out there and hear what so many of you had to say about it. Was the idea of changing the NBA playoff format from a 7-game series, getting rid of the series altogether and doing like what they have in the NFL and make it a 1-game playoff. Winner takes all. It's just one game. There's still home court advantage to the best team, obviously, which there's pros and cons to that, which we'll get into, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it would be a welcome change and would be something nice for the NBA, especially because, let's face it, the likelihood that we're going to see the same playoff matchup or same finals matchup between the Cavs and the Warriors again this season, it's very likely that that's going to happen. The really only competition would probably come from the West, not necessarily from the East, because basically whichever team LeBron James is on is the team that's going to make it to the Eastern Conference, as history has shown over the past decade. And then as for the Golden State Warriors, there's the San Antonio Spurs and Clippers that can certainly give them a run for their money. So there's a little more opportunity in the West for there to be changes or differences in that sense. However, if it's a 1-game playoff format, there's a chance that some of these teams that don't have much of a chance to make it or to beat those teams, i.e. an 8 seed taking on a number 1 seed or a 7 seed taking on a number 2 seed, the likelihood of them beating a team, take home court advantage out of it. The likelihood of an 8 seed playing a number 1 seed and beating them 4 times is slim to none. Yes, we've seen it before, but it's extremely rare, and I don't think, even if they played all 7 games in the home gym or the home arena of the 8th seed, the likelihood that they will win 4 games and beat the number 1 seed 4 times, especially if the number 1 seed is a Warriors or a Cavaliers or a Spurs, it's slim to none. So it basically means unless you're in the top 4, unless you're avoiding the top 2 till all the way to the Western Conference Finals, you're probably not going to make it that far, and I think that's unfortunate. I get the appeal of a 7-game series because it extends the games, and it's hard for there to be a change in the NBA because the NBA recognizes the TV revenue and ratings that come with having a max of 7, a minimum of 4 playoff games per series, per each matchup that's going on. So there's definitely a lot of TV money and revenue that they would have to give up. However, look at last year's playoff games. How many snooze fests did we have between the top seeds and the bottom seeds of just absolute blowout games? And then maybe the bottom seeds would get 1 game. If they were lucky, they would steal 2. But other than those random lucky wins, there really wasn't much of a shot for any of those teams to make it or to move on or to advance, and I think that's wrong. I don't like that with the NBA. I don't like these super teams or these macho teams like the Warriors or the Cavs or the Spurs or the Clippers or what have you. I don't like that these teams basically get a golden ticket not just to their conference finals but to even the NBA finals to some extent, because there's just not competition that can stand up to him for 4 games. Now, I get the argument anybody can win on any given night, but again, the likelihood of an 8th seed or a 7th seed or even a 6th seed knocking off a top 3 seed 4 times in such a small stretch of games is just absurd and unlikely. That's why if you change it to a 1-game format, it makes the game so much more interesting, because these lower seeds recognize that, hey, we have an opportunity, even though we're on the road, we have an opportunity to steal one here and potentially to advance and knock off one of these juggernauts. But for the juggernaut team, it also kind of lights a fire under their ass, because they know, hey, it's 1 game. And if we slip up for 1 game, suddenly our hopes of making it to the finals or to winning a championship or making it to the Eastern Conference or Western Conference finals, suddenly those are gone. So the potential for massive championship teams or those teams that are built for championship runs to lose or fall short or be battling with their backs against the wall is significantly less, especially in those opening series and in those opening rounds. And I think that would be something that would be good for basketball. I'm curious to think what you guys would say or have to think about that, because again, I do understand the appeal of a 7-game series, and I understand that, like I mentioned, the revenue involved, and there's also a lot of good drama involved. And then you look at the teams, like, for example, we'll use the Sacramento Kings here. If the Sacramento Kings sneak into the 8th seed and they manage to get in a playoff series against the Golden State Warriors, they might be able to steal 1 game. I don't think they're winning 2, but they might be able to steal 1. But bottom line is they're not going to beat the Warriors. They're most likely going to lose in 4 or 5, maybe 6 games. I understand the appeal for a fan's perspective of, even if we're going to get knocked out immediately by the Warriors, we still get at least 2 guaranteed home games in the playoffs. I understand that. I get that appeal. However, I would be willing to sacrifice those home games for a better opportunity to see my team advance and make a run. I would rather not see 2 possibly meaningless playoff games in my gym or in my arena when I know that, it might just be a flash in the pan game, or we might get a win. Woohoo! It's cool to have that, but in the grand scheme of things, it's meaningless, because there's no chance that our team is gonna knock off the Warriors or knock off a juggernaut 4 times. It's just unlikely, and I think it's bad for the game, because it doesn't allow for these teams that are maybe on the cusp or who are trying to build and who are trying to get there. It doesn't really give them that fair of a shot. And I'm a huge LeBron fan in the sense of I recognize that he's one of the best, if not the best, to ever play the game. You can enter the Michael Jordan debate in there, but we're going to avoid that at all costs, because I know people are plenty passionate about it. However, as much as I love and enjoy seeing LeBron James, I'm tired of seeing him in the finals, guys. I want to see someone else from the Eastern Conference knock him off, and we can get a different look. I would love to see Paul George-led Pacers make a run. Maybe even the Chicago Bulls with the team that they've put together with Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade. You would like to see maybe them make a run. Milwaukee Bucks have an opportunity to maybe not necessarily make it to the finals, but make it deep into the playoffs with Antetokounmpo. There's so many possibilities. The Boston Celtics, look at them. How great would it be to see Isaiah Thomas and the Celtics with their young core? Brad Stevens has got them playing so well. It would be great to see them in the playoffs, or in the finals even. And their likelihood of all those teams making it is extremely low, because the fact of the matter is, it's nearly impossible to knock off a LeBron James team 4 times unless you're the best of the best from the Western Conference, unless you're a team like the Golden State Warriors or the San Antonio Spurs years ago when they beat the Cavs when LeBron was quite young and really was the only piece that the Cavaliers had. you understand the point, and I can keep talking around in circles, and there's arguments that can be made for both sides, and I know I'm going to get a lot of the, well, if you don't like it, beat LeBron, win, play better, be better. And I think that's just a terrible argument, because unless everything goes right for you and you're clicking on all cylinders 4 times, which is unlikely, you're going to continue to see LeBron James versus whatever super team is in the West in the finals over and over and over again. And I think it's just dull. I used to watch the NBA Finals religiously every single game, no matter what. Last year, it was the Warriors and the Cavs again, and with the exception of a couple big-time games, I didn't watch it all that much because I was tired of seeing the same thing. Now, if they make it again, I might watch it again a couple of times to see really Kevin Durant versus LeBron James, with Durant now being a member of the Warriors. But even then, I'm not going to watch the full series because I've seen it before. I'm tired of it, you know? So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. I'm curious to see if you like these video formats. It certainly makes my commute a little bit more fun, a little bit easier, and it's fun to hash this stuff out. And again, I'm going to write a story, an opinionated piece on this that'll probably go up on both my website, mgsportsonline.net, and then on cowbellkingdom.com. So stay tuned for that, and then we'll talk about it a lot more on the Cowbell Kingdom podcast that comes next week. But I want to hear your thoughts. Do you like that idea of the NBA going to a single-game playoff, or would you rather see them keep it at that 7-game series? Well, put it in a simpler term for those Kings fans, because I know there's so many Kings fans that that follow what I do. Would you rather have the Kings make the playoffs and have a chance to steal one and advance beyond the Warriors, or would you rather just accept their inevitable defeat but have a guaranteed 2 playoff games in the Golden One Center? It's a tough question. There can be debates and arguments made for either side, and I'm anxious to hear your guys' responses, but as for right now, that's going to do it. Let's call this a little car commute podcast that we're wrapping up here, and I look forward to doing more of these in the future. Take it easy, guys. Go Kings.